Doublelift recently answered one of the most common questions that we think about when it comes to coaching players in League or trying to help players, especially at lower ranks, improve at the game, which is, as he's going to say here, how do you improve if you're like a player below Diamond? How do you get better at the game? And I just want to listen to Doublelift's reaction on this video where he was answering these questions, and then let's talk about what Doublelift said here, because I think it's an answer that is kind of obvious, but I haven't really heard expressed before. So let's listen to what he says here.
Of part two. I'm stuck in a low rank. How do I climb to diamond? I get this every day on stream. I can't tell you. I really can't. I think you can tell yourself. Rather than asking others, I think you should be able to identify, what part of your game is lacking and just work on that. The greatest thing about being lower rank is there's so many ways that you can improve. If you think about a challenger player, how do you go from top 300 challenger to top 100? Those margins are so small, they're so hard to find. But if you're talking about going from, let's say, silver to gold, or gold to plat, or plat to diamond, there are so many ways that you can improve. So really just focus on anything that you find interesting, whether that be farming, mechanics, map awareness, whether that be improving your champion pool or your game knowledge or any of that stuff. You have so many ways that you can get better at this rank that it's really just honestly up to you. And looking for others for like a short answer, it's going to be really hard because I don't know how you play. Almost nobody does, right?
So the cool thing about this question and answer from Doublelift is I've heard a lot of focus in the kind of getting better at League community on how can we get a player who's in like silver or gold to improve the most efficiently. And while that's kind of helpful and nice, and you definitely want to answer that question or spend some time thinking about it, what people don't think about is that it's more important to improve in a way that's fun than it is to just work on improving the thing that's maybe going to help you the most or be the most efficient way to improve. So let's take this to another concept and say, what do people always say when we talk about champion pool? What people always say when they talk about champion pool is, of course, some champions are easier to play, easier to climb with in lower ranks. Maybe they're better at stomping in lower ranks or something like that. But you should play what you find fun, whether that champion is hard to climb with in low elo or not. As long as you stick to one champion or a very limited champion pool, you should do whatever you find the most fun. Because at the end of the day, you're never going to get really good at the game if you just don't play enough. And so because playing more is the most important thing, picking a champion that you enjoy playing the most is more important than picking a champion that's maybe going to have 1% higher win rate, or something like this. Maybe you'll climb a little bit faster with it or something, but then you're going to plateau anyways, and you're going to drop it because you're not having fun or you're not going to play the number of games you need to play anyways. So it's better for you to just play the champion that you actually enjoy. I think it's actually the same thing when it comes to improving at League. There's lots of different ways that you can improve at League, but you should focus on improving the thing that you enjoy doing the most, because if you focus on improving the thing that you enjoy doing the most, you'll actually stick to it. You'll actually improve in that area and you'll actually get better at the game. Whereas if you set your goal to be good at something you just don't care about, you're not interested in, and you're just really not that motivated to do it, you're just never going to do it, or you're going to drop the goal after a couple of games of focusing on it, and you're not actually going to improve that skill at all. And then maybe if you improve a lot in an area that you actually enjoy improving, then you'll get to a point where you say, okay, now I'm a certain rank, I care about the game a little bit more, or I've already improved this thing. So even if I enjoy improving at the next thing a little bit less than the first thing I worked on, it's still going to be the next thing for me to work on. It's still going to bring me some joy, and I'm still going to enjoy what I do. So I think that the key here is that rather than trying to min-max the thing that's causing you the biggest problems, there are so many things that you're doing wrong. Even as a plat or an emerald player, there's so many things that you're doing wrong that you can basically pick any skill that you want and work on that skill. So if your biggest thing is you want to be really good at even something like itemization or something like that, you want to understand itemization more, you want to learn more about it, you want to be able to make all the correct item choices in game, maybe that's something that you really enjoy as someone who enjoys theory crafting items and like trying to, pick items that counter the enemy team or something like that. Maybe you're the opposite and you don't care at all about focusing on what component items are the right items to build in what order, and instead you just care about smashing somebody mechanically, and so you want to train your mechanics the best way that you can. You enjoy pulling off some sick combo, and so you want to practice that in practice tool a little bit, or look for opportunities to do that as much as possible in your game, even if it's not necessarily the best thing for that situation in that game, or, whatever, because in the long term, it's going to make your combos a lot better. It's going to make you a lot more mechanical, something like that. So understand that there are so many different ways to improve when you're a lower rated player that you can just pick whatever it is about the game that you enjoy the most and focus on that thing. And in the same way that there's people who, one trick a certain champion to a really high rank because they focus on that one champion, there are people who are really good at one element of the game, and they're able to use that one element of the game and being, one of the best at it to climb to diamond or to climb to even masters. There's a lot of players in masters who are really good at one element of the game and completely blind to a lot of mistakes in other areas. So, one thing I see a lot as a support player, I'll take the opportunity to complain about this here, is mid laners are completely unaware of when the enemy support goes missing on the map. They just don't pay any attention to it. Even in like masters, 0 to 400 LP, I'm seeing a lot of mid laners. It's like one of the biggest problems I see with mid laners in low masters is they're just not paying enough attention to the map to ever realize when the enemy support can roam. And so they just die anytime the enemy support shows up in mid lane. It's like they die or lose flash. They rage about it. It's too easy. It's like it could be on vision. It could be the most obvious timer. It could be a timer where their support can move and you can't. And they just don't want to accept that your support can't always move, when the enemy support can move. And so it's like, well, if that person is so lacking, or in general, this is a big area that a lot of, master mid laners are lacking. If they're that lacking in that map awareness aspect of the game, or like at least when it comes to where the supports can be, they have to be better at other aspects of the game to make up for that lack of competency in that key area, because they're losing a lot of games because of the mistakes that they're making around not realizing when the support's missing. So they must be better at something else. They must be really good at laning, really good mechanically, and winning a lot of games where the support situation isn't impacting them, or maybe they trend closer to 50% because some of these games the supports on their team or the enemy team are just winning or losing them the game, and they're taking away that agency from themselves by not avoiding those roams. But, maybe it just evens out because your support sometimes is helping you and their support is sometimes hurting you. And so it makes the game very volatile. It would trend that mid laner closer to a 50% win rate, but it would still not really be the thing that's determining whether they're winning or losing some other games that aren't so one-sided in terms of support roams. So, it's like if you're that mid laner, you may think that, hey, what I want to focus on, what I enjoy about the game is being a knowledgeable player who has really good awareness and sees where everyone is on the enemy team and doesn't die to those things. And I think that's what's going to push me to the next level. Or it could be, hey, I'm a mid laner and I don't care when the enemy support roams or when my support roams. I just want to focus on my mechanics and style on people. Then you're going to focus on that. But I think, I've heard so many times people just try to analyze what are the biggest mistakes most people make in silver? What are the biggest mistakes most people make in gold or different ranks? And the reality is like doublelift said, is one, different people are going to have different problems. So you're not always going to find a one-size-fits-all solution when you watch a video that says, okay, silver players struggle with this. Well, you could be a silver player who's actually really good at that aspect of the game, and you struggle with something completely different. I do think it's logical to assume that there are certain factors or certain parts of the game that most silver players struggle with more than others. So, for example, Obviously, if we take a really basic one, if you go to the lowest rank in the game, like iron and bronze, people are probably really bad mechanically. And obviously, you're going to get a little bit better at everything as you go up every rank, but you can assume that an iron player is not, mechanically a platinum player, and their game knowledge and other aspects of the game are just really bad. It can be pretty much assumed that their basic clicking and the way that they interact with the game is just really scuffed, right? For lack of a better term. So what we have to do there is we can recognize that, okay, if you're an iron, the vast majority of players, their main issue might be just their mechanics or knowing what the abilities in the game do. Maybe they're trying to play a bunch of different champions because they're still figuring out what they even like in the game. They don't even know what they want to play yet, what role, what champion they want to play. So they have no idea. They're just trying a bunch of different things, which is totally fine. But you can then prescribe and say, okay, I think that most iron players have these problems. So if you're iron, I think the biggest things that you need to do in iron are to, lock down a role in a champion instead of flipping around with all these different roles and champions. I think you need to work on your mechanics and the way that you're interacting with the game. I think that you need to improve your understanding of the game. That's like 3 different things. So that's going to catch a lot of people, right? But there are going to be different people who need to work on different things. Imagine there is an iron player who actually does just play one champion in one role, but their mechanics are really weak still, and they have no idea what the other champion's abilities do, and they've never tried to learn them. So obviously, right, that player needs the other advice more. So if you make a video and your answer is, well, iron players need to stick to a smaller champion pool and pick a role, that's not going to help that guy, because everyone's individual problems are different and their issues with the game are different. You can be good in certain areas and underdeveloped in other areas. And so that's number one, is when you watch Getting Better at League content, you need to recognize what your areas of weakness are and what your areas of strength are, and focus on content that's tailored towards helping answer your questions with your weak areas, rather than, a lot of content is just going to try to hit the majority of people and help as many people as possible, but it's not necessarily the problem that's affecting you. And then once you know that, okay, so here's the areas that I'm weak in. Is there an area that I'm weak in that I actually kind of like that part of the game, or I want to learn about that part of the game more? Maybe you find items fascinating, but you don't know, much about half of them. Or you find like that you want to be really skilled mechanically, and in order to do that, you need to be able to like outplay enemy champions' abilities, but you don't know what they are. Or you need to practice a combo, or you need to practice clicking more or moving more or something like that. It's like there are different things that are going to affect different players. You need to recognize where your weaknesses are, and then find the thing that you enjoy. In the same way that you find a champion that you want to main because you enjoy it, find a thing to work on that you enjoy the most. Because if you do the thing if you work on the area that you need to improve in, that you enjoy working on the most, and then keep doing that and doing that and doing that, by the time that you've like finished working on the things that you enjoy working on when it comes to League or improving on, you'll probably be really good at the game. And by the point, my assumption here too is that the better you get at the game, the more you're going to care about different parts of the game, because you're going to still want to improve, and you're going to see how important some of those other aspects are. And so I think, whereas you may say if you're in gold, this little detail about the game, that's kind of important, but it's just like way too niche, and I don't want to worry about it right now. It doesn't seem that fun to learn. By the time that you're in Emerald or in Diamond or something like that, you're going to look at that aspect of the game and say, wow, that's kind of interesting. I want to know how that works. And so things are going to open up to you where by the time you're finished with the first thing that you enjoy getting better at, you're probably going to actually be interested enough in the game to enjoy a new thing about getting better at the game. And so if you focus on improving what you want to improve rather than what people are telling you to improve, or what maybe is going to be the most efficient way to improve, you're going to have a lot more fun playing the game in general. And if you have more fun playing the game, you're going to play more, which is going to naturally improve all of your stuff eventually over time in most cases. And I think that as you get better, because you're enjoying the game more and you're playing the game more, you're going to find other things that you want to work on as a result. So I think that this is a really interesting answer, right, to this question that we've all seen a million times on YouTube, which is like, getting better at League doesn't have to be about improving the thing that most players at your rank are stuck with, or about improving what people think is the most efficient way to get better at the game. You can just do what you think is fun. And so for me, I really like theory crafting and itemization and stuff like that, trying different builds. Now, maybe, that's not going to help you improve as fast as something else, but here's what's cool about that. Because I enjoy itemization, theory crafting, and stuff like that, I learned a lot of stuff through that that's really helpful to me. Like a lot of players, probably even at higher ranks, aren't familiar with what top laners' items do because they haven't taken the time to really study that. But because I like theory crafting builds, I know what all the items do. And so I have a much better grasp on like how this fight with this guy who has this item is going to play out, or like how to itemize against that. I have a good grasp on that, and that's really helpful to me and gives me a little bit of an edge. Now, maybe, I should have focused on champion pool or, some other thing, some decision-making thing, when I was lower rank, instead of learning what all the items in the game were. But at the end of the day, now that I've gotten really good at the game, I have this set of knowledge that not everybody has, because I cared about that one aspect of the game and found it fun. And, I think that's great. And so you don't always have to focus on improving the most efficient way. But obviously there are ways to kind of speed up your process if you don't care about the journey at all. Well, let's talk about that, and I'll end it on that, which is, let's say you just want to get to diamond and you're a lower rank like gold, and you just don't care about the journey or the process at all. So you don't care what you're having to improve, or you don't really like any element of the game all that much. You just want to get to diamond. To be honest, that's kind of a problem, because even though, of course, we all really want to get to our ranked goals, if you don't care about the steps that you take along the way, that's 99% of the journey. There's one day where you hit that rank and that's it, right? So 99% of the time is going to be you playing a bunch of games getting to that point. If you don't enjoy playing the game, you don't enjoy changing the way that you're playing the game to improve, you're going to have a really hard time, if it's even possible for you to go from gold to diamond, if you don't enjoy the improvement process. So you have to enjoy what you're doing along the way. Otherwise, you're just not going to put in the time in the games, or you're going to quit before you even get there. So you have to enjoy the learning process. And I think, that's a big part of what I've learned to enjoy, having gotten all the way to Challenger, is I don't really care about the specific thing that I'm working on improving, but I just like the optimization puzzle. I just like the problem of figuring out what it is I need to improve, and then figuring out the answer to that problem, and then just implementing it and improving at it. So it doesn't really matter to me at all. It's just, I've gotten to a point now, I'm like ascended, where I just love the problem of figuring out what I need to improve and doing it. It doesn't even matter the thing. So it could be dumb stuff too. Like, we're playing fantasy football with my friends now, right? It's like, I don't care that much about fantasy football, but I'm going to figure out how to do the best that I can in fantasy football, because it's not about the football. It's not about the fantasy football. It's not about the money that we have on the line. What it is it's about the game. It's about the love of the game. It's about figuring out how I can take these guys' money by, outsmarting them at every stage of the game, and taking this new thing that I don't know a ton about, and just figuring out how it works and how to optimize it. The optimization problem in and of itself, that's the fun part. So if you enjoy the optimization, you're going to get there. There's a lot of people, like, there's a trend, right, where people really hate the optimization in gaming. And I can really understand both sides of this argument, because the two games that I've played, I'm not really a big gamer. I don't play hundreds of games. But the two games that I've played basically my whole life in gaming is League and Minecraft. And Minecraft is a game that's been optimized to a point where it kind of sucks. You know what I mean? Like, it's not fun when people care so much about optimizing what they're doing that you're not getting to just go do whatever you want or be creative, which is the whole point of the game, is to just like run around, explore, do whatever you want. So if you're having to like spend a bunch of time getting this thing because it's more efficient for what you want to do later, or you know, you need to have the best tools because it saves you time or something like that, that level of optimization in a game like that, that's not meant to be optimized, in a game that's meant to just be fun and creative, sucks really bad. But in a game like League, that's a competitive game, competitive games are meant to be optimized. And what it is that people's experience with competitive games are bleeding into their experience with other games. So somebody who maybe likes improving a lot, or, you know, solving these optimization problems or puzzles, they get into a game that they, you know, enjoy, like a Minecraft or something like that, and then they overanalyze that to the nth degree. So they know, okay, we mine at this block level, we, you know, have to get all these tools with the right specific stuff on it, and here's the way that you do that without wasting any resources as efficiently as possible. And it's like, okay, in a game like that, you need to calm down. But in a game like League, it's kind of what the game is there to do. It's like this really complicated game that's meant for you to try to get better at it and optimize. And what it comes down to at the end of the day is that if you fall in the camp of people who hate people who optimize games, and you just want to play completely for fun and creatively, and you don't want to get better, and you don't want to optimize the way that you play, I would seriously say that competitive games like League are probably not for you, because you want a fun, creative game. And League can be a fun, creative game too, but then that's like where you're saying, okay, I'm not going to play ranked. I'm just going to like mess around with fun builds in normal games and stuff like that, which is what like 80% of the player base does, is they just, you know, kind of plug and play some random stuff with League and just kind of mess around for fun, which is totally fine, a fine way to play. But at a competitive level, or in ranked where it's a competitive setting, the point is to optimize the way that you're playing the game and get better. So there are definitely two camps of people right now, people who love optimization and people who hate it and think that it's taking fun and creativity out of games. And if you're one of the people who thinks that like games are meant to be for fun and creative, you're probably not meant for ranked. And if you're somebody who, you know, thinks that optimization is fun, getting better at anything or solving any puzzle is fun, then competitive, you know, ranked is more for you, because then you're the type of person who wants to get better and optimize your gameplay. And getting back to that main point, if you're somebody who wants to optimize like that, then you're going to enjoy the journey. You're going to enjoy every step, every game, every improvement that you make, every thing that you identify that you need to work on. You're going to enjoy all of that on your way to getting to a higher rank. If you're not like that, then you're going to struggle, because you're not going to seek out those things. You're just going to want to force the way that you want to play the game. You're going to keep playing the game the way that you want to play it. And you're not going to be adaptable, because you have your way that you want to play the game that you've thought of creatively, and you're not willing to change it because I just want to enjoy League the way I want to enjoy it. Why can I not play League the way that I want to enjoy it suboptimally, and everyone else plays suboptimally around me, so that I can also enjoy climbing to whatever rank I want? That's just not how it works. You can't just force the way that you want to play the game, or that you think the game should be played, if it's not actually the like good way to play the game, or like an optimal way to play the game. You can't just force your play style to work. If it works and you go to a high rank, it does. And if it doesn't, you know, it's probably not going to be good. I think there's very few people who start playing League and are so talented that intuitively they instantly shoot up to masters or something like that, because their concept of how to play the game from the get-go is just so spot on to the actual right way to play the game. I mean, that is super rare. If not completely impossible. So you have to enjoy the process. And if you don't enjoy the process, you know, ranked and trying to hit new ranked goals maybe is just not the right thing for you. And maybe you'd have more fun and enjoy playing other games more. You know, so that's the insight from Doublelift. I thought it was really interesting, because I think we focus too much in coaching and getting better at League on efficiency in terms of getting better. And sometimes doing the thing that's more fun is more efficient in the long run than forcing you to do the thing that we think is the most efficient. So with that being said, good luck in solo queue and have a wonderful day.